Good evening. Welcome to the League of Women Voters Candidates Forum. Tonight we're going to have two forums, but first we're going to hear from our two supervisor candidates. Before we begin, I'd like to ask everybody to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Put your hand over your heart. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we began, we had someone draw numbers for us. Carla Castilla is going to go first on our opening statements, followed by Kelly Long. At the end of the evening, we'll reverse the order. Kelly Long will go first and Carla will go second. At this time, we're ready to begin. Carla, for your opening statements, you have 2 minutes, and again, our timers are right here. They'll give you a warning at 30 seconds remaining.
Great. Thank you so much, David, and to the entire audience and the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. I would like to first start by taking a moment of silence to recognize our fallen firefighter, Ryan Osler, who passed away this morning battling the fire up in Lompoc. So if we could do that for just a moment. Thank you. This tragedy reminds us of the sacrifices that firefighters and our public safety folks make on a daily basis to keep all of us safe. So thank you for that opportunity. My personal and professional roots run deep in Ventura County. I was born and raised here by hardworking immigrant parents, and I was the first in my family to graduate from college with a degree in International Development Studies and Business Administration from UCLA. I come from a large family of farm workers, small business owners, and veterans, all which have instilled in me the ethic of hard work, the value of service, and the duty to pay it forward. I have been a community activist, a volunteer, a family small business owner, and I've never forgotten where I come from or who I am fighting for. This is why my campaign is about working families and why I'm supported by teachers, firefighters, nurses, and law enforcement. I currently serve as the district director for our state senator, Hannah Jackson. I have served as an aide to our local Congresswoman Lois Capps, and I have served as an aide in the White House in Washington, D.C. I'm honored to have the endorsements of distinguished Ventura County leaders such as Congresswoman Julia Brownlee, Congresswoman Lois Capps, State Senator Hannah Jackson, Assemblywoman Jackie Irwin, and especially our current county supervisor, Kathy Long. I'm also honored to be endorsed by local community leaders, including members of this city council, as well as Dr. Charles Weiss, Vianney Lopez, Murray Rosenbluth, and Marisela Morales. This diverse coalition of support stems from my many years of tackling issues that impact Ventura County. I've worked on a wide range of issues, of local issues addressing local environmental concerns, such as the restoration of the Ormond Beach wetlands, the cleanup and containment of Halico, and defeating the LNG gas tankers off the coast of Oxnard and Port Hueneme, to increase access to healthcare and also to protecting our open space. With over 16 years of federal, state, and local legislative experience, thorough knowledge of policymaking, coalition building, and proven leadership in this community, I believe I'm uniquely qualified to represent the 3rd District and am ready to do the job on day one.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Kelly Long.
Thank you very much. As your county supervisor, I will ensure that our county government is fiscally responsible, focused on building our economy and improving public safety. I believe to be an effective county supervisor, you must have demonstrated leadership, sound business experience, and the ability to work with all members of our county family. I have spent my entire career as a problem solver. I have over 20 years of combined experience as a school board trustee, mechanical engineer, executive, and mother. This experience has prepared me well to serve as your county supervisor. My work experience and history is clearly documented and transparent. If elected, I will bring my skill set that includes management and leadership, budgeting and fiscally accountability, collective bargaining and negotiating, policy development and process improvement, and that will help culture the excellence of our county. The 3rd District is a wonderful and it's diverse. However, each community offers our own sense of pride in our neighborhoods and a sense of belonging. But our neighborhoods also have their own sets of problems. And as a businesswoman and a school board trustee, I've dealt firsthand with the same issues facing our county. My ability to make informed decisions related to water, transportation, public safety, healthcare, and county operations is paramount to serving as your county supervisor. To make good decisions, it is important to understand the needs of our county agencies, local businesses, and residents we serve. Now, over the course of my campaign, I have been out every day meeting and listening to our officials, our leaders, our business representatives, all of our citizens. And our county doesn't need a politician. They need a problem solver and one with real world experience. So that's who I am and why I'm asking for your vote today.
Thank you very much. I can feel the energy, so let's give a round of applause. Now we all feel better, right? So there are a few more seats over here for anybody standing. There's some on this side of the room. Kelly will begin the first question with you. And as a reminder, on the questions, you have 1.5 minutes. They'll warn you when you are at the 1 minute mark. So the first question, Kelly, what are your ideas? Tell us 3 things you would advocate for to raise revenue for Ventura County. What are 3 of your ideas to help raise revenue for the county?
Well, for our county, I agree, we need to raise money. So whoever put that question in there, thank you. Because as you know, our economy is about 1%. And my true focus is to make sure that we are really providing quality jobs in our county. So that's working with our Chamber of Commerce, our business leaders, to see how we can get those companies, 1, to stay here, 2, to bring more companies here. So the reason I want to make sure we're looking for the jobs, we want to make sure we're looking at the regulations that we're doing, so we're not putting more levels on our businesses so they want to leave. And then also to make our community, making sure that we're making the needs of our community. I feel if we look at our community, we look at our regulations, we look at our jobs, I think that will really increase our economy.
Thank you. Carla, same question to you. Tell us 3 things you would do to help raise revenue for the county.
Well, there are a few things that we can actually do. There's actually a few things that we can do in November to help raise revenue for the county. And one of them is supporting the Ventura County Transportation Measure, which is critically important, particularly for the area that we're in today, both the city of Port Hueneme, the Oxnard Harbor District, and our naval base, in order to make sure that our infrastructure is sound and safe and improved. We need to be able to move people and goods effectively and efficiently. And part of that is what we can do with the transportation measure is in order to attract federal and state dollars to our local economy, the county is often asked to provide its matching funds. And so that's one way that we can all help in attracting and raising revenue. The second piece would be to help the city of Port Hueneme, but throughout the county in general, we have so many natural gems. One of them, not far from us, is Ormond Beach Wetlands. And so continuing the restoration process, I mean, this is an internationally known spot for birding. We have people from all over the world that come here that I meet at the different cafe, Anna Cappuccino, right up the street, that come from Germany, France, other parts of the world, to actually see one of the last big wetlands that we have in the state of California. And so that's another way, is to really look at each of the different aspects of the county and to highlight its natural treasures and see how we can use that to support our local economy. The second is Prop 55, the extension of Prop 30. We need to make sure that our schools are well funded and that our services are funded as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, just a reminder to the audience, we're taking your questions. Just hold up your hands. We have volunteers. They'll bring you a card and a pencil if you need it, and you can fill out as many questions as you want. When you're done writing out your questions, raise your hand again and we'll come and collect your questions from you. Okay, Carla, we'll start the next question with you. Let's talk a little bit about the difference. As we all know, the district is quite vast and it has both the coastal cities and the inland cities. So how would you balance some of the needs of the coastal cities versus the inland areas? How would you favor, or what would you favor?
Well, it's not about favoring, but looking at each of the communities collectively. I think in Ventura County, we have these incredible cities, you know, all very diverse and unique, both in its flavor and its culture and its history. Yet every city and the unincorporated parts make up a larger community of the county of Ventura. And let me take that another step forward. It's not just about Ventura County, but also our place as a region and what that means with our impacts from our neighbors to the south and to the north. And so it's not about favoring, but really I think as an elected official, it's crucial to listen to the needs of each of the communities and implement local solutions in combination with some of the state and federal resources that we have to address those challenges. So there's no one cookie cutter answer, but it's certainly important to make sure that we're keeping in mind all of the characteristics and the diversity of the 3rd District. The 3rd District has some of the most affluent communities, and it also has some of the neediest communities in the entire district of Ventura County. So I think that those are things that I'm uniquely positioned to address and listen and identify because I've been working in each of those communities, not only as a professional, but also as a person who is a product of Ventura County, born and raised here with family, friends, and small business interests in different aspects of this county.
Thank you. Kelly, same question to you. Share your view and how you would handle the different needs of both the coastal cities and the inland cities.
Well, it's been a great experience getting to know everybody. I have traveled all along this district, just trying to understand what you say the needs of our community are. They are very special, as I was saying in my opening statement. There are common themes. Public safety is crucial. We need to make sure that we're providing our communities safety that they need. Then there's also our job growth. We are all, as Ventura County, way below the average income for our Californians, or the average is $54,000. In our Santa Clara, it's 35,000. And in Ventura County, it's 45,000. So those are needs that we need to be focusing on for our entire county. And then also, as I see on the school board side, for our education is key for making sure that we provide a quality workforce here, to make sure that we're looking out for our kids and our seniors and our communities. So making sure that that education is there as well. So there's 3 things that I really want to make sure we're focusing on for the needs of all of our communities. Now there might be a portion of less or more, but it depends on the community and what their words are.
Thank you. Kelly, we'll start with you on the next one. We'll talk a little bit about the sand replenishment needs here in Fort Hueneme. $1 billion worth of economic activity comes through the port. Just this week, the port had to shore up the seawall with boulders to fix it due to the lack of sand. So if you were elected, what would you do to help get sand replenishment back on track?
That is a good question. The sand, I believe, needs to be there. Part of our economy for Port Hueneme is that we have a beach, and we need to make sure that we have that beach there. So we need to be making sure we're working with our organizations and our cities to find out what the true solution is for the long term. We could put sand back right now, but it doesn't mean next season it's not going to be there. And we make sure that we have a solid plan and the financial backing to make sure that that's there. And work with, like I say, our cities and our organizations, state and federal, to make sure that we have these long-term plans in place.
Thank you. Carla, same question to you. What will you do to help get sand replenishment back on track?
Coastal erosion is a problem that the state of California as a whole, the coastline, faces. And we have a very unique seat to see that happening right here in the city of Port Hueneme. The sand replenishment is a complex issue because there's a variety of partners that are involved with this replenishment effort. It requires the feds, the state, the county, the city, and other partners to make sure that when the funding's available at the federal level, that all the local capacity is in place to make sure that we can move the sand. So this is an ongoing issue that won't go away anytime soon. And because our funding is really at the whims of Congress, it makes it very challenging for the local city to be able to plan in the long term. So as a supervisor, what I would do is to make sure that I strengthen those relationships, continue and strengthen the relationships between our county partners as well as with the state folks, and importantly at the congressional level, so that our funding doesn't get tied up, in some feud. We know that Congress has been at a standstill and it's been very difficult, but when our communities are literally roads and proper infrastructure are being washed away, homes are at risk, it's critically important that we're there as a county to step up and make sure that the voice of the city is being amplified by its surrounding partners.
Thank you, Carla. We'll start with you on the next one. Whether or not Proposition 64 passes, Proposition 64 is the one that would legalize marijuana in California for everybody over 21. Regardless of whether or not that passes in November, do you favor regulating or banning medical marijuana businesses, cannabis businesses?
Certainly. Well, Prop 64 will be determined in November. That'll be interesting to see what the voters decide at the ballot box. I think we can see a national trend where states like Colorado have in fact already legalized the use of marijuana, and it's not my understanding of not a matter of whether it's going to happen, but a matter of when. So as a state and as a county, we really need to be ready. We need to understand the business from all levels, and I think regulation is a critical part of keeping consumers as well as the folks who are involved with dispensing and producing safe and accountable to all people.
Thank you. Kelly, same question to you. What's your position if Proposition 64 passes? Do you favor regulating or banning the cannabis businesses?
It's been a long time since we've had to regulate something so important. You have alcohol, but this marijuana is a whole nother animal. The polls say that it will be passing, and I have a great concern of it because I, as a school board member, and the kids, the rules and regulations that are put in place, the education that's there, I'm very concerned. I talked with law enforcement, and how do we give them the support they need to make sure that our law enforcement can serve and protect our people, to make sure we have treatment centers, to make sure we have prevention, education, to make sure there's age restrictions. They're still trying to figure out the consumption levels and so forth. So there's got to be some rules and regulations out there. And then there's also, say, for example, Fillmore's looking at dispensing. Is that something our county wants to do? Is that something our cities wants to do? There's a lot of things that I personally think need to be put in place before this tax was ever passed.
Thank you. Kelly, we'll start with you on the next one. And the question is about the potential railroad that would connect the Harbor District to the major freight lines. I'm not sure how much of that railroad is city business versus county area, but I'm going to use this question to ask you if you have a position on expanding the railroad so that the port can transfer things. And the author of the question says he's concerned about toxic waste that might be going along. And I'll allow you to also talk about your views on the Harbor District and the port in general. So if you have a position on the railroad, tell us that, and tell us your views about supporting or not supporting the Harbor District.
Okay. One, I do support our Harbor District. I think it's very important for our economy, for our city and our county. So I do support it. It also is supporting our economy. We move so much produce, cars, so many different things out of the port and in the port that we really need it and value it. Two, I support the train going through. I live half a mile from a train right now. The bells go off, the horns go off at 5:30 as my alarm and 6:30 as my alarm. And all I can think of when it goes by my house is that is an economy that is driving Ventura County. And so I am very much supportive of it. At the same time, I've signed a resolution to make sure that we're not transporting toxic waste, and also some of the gas that was talked about moving on the train systems. So I do want to make sure that we're working with our communities to make sure they understand and educate why the trains are important, and also how can we support having this driving the economy using the train, and also being a good steward of the neighborhood, making sure that we're not waking up babies at 2 a.m. with the horn. So it's really a community build. We need to make sure that everyone is taken care of, and at the same time driving our economy.
Thank you. Carla, same question to you about the Harbor District and also about the actual railroad, your position about supporting the railroad, which might be carrying more product, and the district in general.
Sure. Is it on? There we go. The Oxnard Harbor District is a critical component and is part of the backbone of the Ventura County economy, as well as our regional economy. What happens at the port actually impacts not just Ventura County and the hundreds of workers that are based out of the port, but also in terms of our security and our private sector and the different partnerships that all occur thanks to the vitality of the port. We also have our partner with Naval Base Ventura County with the port, and a lot of land use issues and infrastructure challenges that we need to figure out. So a part of that is, I think it's too soon to take a position on the railroad. Obviously it's controversial because there's been some encroachment issues on city property as well as the park. But on top of that, really, right-of-way access is up to the feds and the state. So, making an argument for the economic impact of this railway, as well as the sound environmental portion of it, is going to impact that decision-making down the road. So that's where I stand.
Okay. Carla, we'll stay with you on the next question. We're going to actually move out into the other part of your district, the Ojai area. What's the next steps that Ventura County can undertake to speed up the removal of the Matilaha Dam now that a preferred strategy has been identified? What would you do as supervisor?
Well, Matilaha Dam has been an ongoing point of discussion, and the stakeholders have been engaged over a period of time, and I think we need to make sure that the environmental review process is in place and that we have the funding to properly address the Matilaha Dam to its natural point. And there's still a lot of work that needs to be done from a public works standpoint for that.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, same question to you. If you're elected, what can the county do to speed up the removal of Matilaha Dam?
Well, I do agree with what Carla is stating, that we do need our environmental impact reports to make sure that we're doing it correctly, that we're working with our community, our stakeholders, to really ensure that we bring it back and that we're good stewards to our environment. And it's really, we just got to move it along as fast as possible, but be wise to make sure that we remove everything that we need to do.
Thank you. We'll start with you on the next question, Kelly. Port Huenemi's solid waste goes to the Tolan Road landfill. The landfill will have more capacity at the end of its permit. So should the county, or would you support extending that permit if there is the capacity for only for only the publicly owned areas? So the question to you, if you're elected, would you support extending the permit for Tolan Road landfill to continue taking more solid waste?
I don't know as much about that item. If it's going to help our cities and we have the capacity to do it, my first comment would be yes, I would definitely support it. If that's going to be useful for our cities. I would want to understand the stakeholders. I don't believe that there's any processes that they would want to change, but I would want to make sure that we look at all of it and make sure we're answering all the problems that we have.
Thank you. Carla, same question to you. If you're elected, would you approve extending the permit for Tolan Road landfill?
Right. Based on the information I have, I'm not ready to make a decision on that. In part, it's not just about the expansion of the landfill itself, but also what does that mean in terms of the trucking and where the additional landfill items are coming from and what we're accepting and not accepting. So I think it'll be important to review those additional items before making a decision.
Okay, thank you. Carla, we'll stay with you on the next question. We're going to talk a little bit about the drought. So of course, supervisors control development in the county area, the unincorporated area. Would you support a building moratorium until we are out of the current drought?
Considering the housing crisis that we're facing, I don't believe that that's a sustainable option. Right now, our housing situation is in difficult peril, and so we have a long way to go. I don't think that a moratorium is the wisest public policy decision to make. I do, however, support the opportunity to make sure that we're making smart growth decisions at the county level in the unincorporated areas, but then working with our cities to figure out what we can do to meet the development needs and demands of the area.
Thank you. Kelly, same question to you. Would you support a building moratorium until we are out of the current drought?
Actually, if you're monitoring your water regulations right now, they say we're good for 3 years. They ask that we do conserve our water usage, but that we are creating a plan, the Sigma plan, to make sure that we have water sustainability in our county. And that Sigma plan is going to be working with our state water and our local water, making sure that we have a diverse portfolio so that if and yet we get into another drought of any kind, we will be there for our county. As far as the housing, I would not have a memoriam on it, knowing the usage of the water based on farming versus urban area. We are very good at making sure we spend wisely. And then we're also looking at parts such as, like, for example, our school district. In Camarillo, what we've done is we've cut back on water to actually provide that same water for a development. So there's pros and cons for development. However, we still need to make sure we address our housing that is a need right now. And so we need to just make sure that we're not using too much water. What we're doing is managing it and making sure it is used usefully and wisely.
Thank you. Kelly, we'll start with you on the next one. This will be the first question about public safety. The question is, are there any ideas that you have for using the juvenile detention center that could generate revenue? Of course, juvenile detention is somewhat run by the courts and not the county, but it is a county facility, I believe. So if you could tell us your views on that, and in the remainder of your time, talk to us about your positions on public safety and protecting the people of Ventura County.
Well, for the second part, I'm fully for protecting our community and backing up our public safety. Our police are extremely important for keeping our families safe, being there to advocate good behavior, being a buddy. We need more of working with our police in our neighborhoods so that they are our friend and that people aren't growing up running away from them. I think it needs to be a team with our neighborhoods and with our leaders and our education to make sure that our law enforcement is there to help us. So I think we've lost that a little, and it really scares me to state that. But I think we need to do a lot more to make sure that they are really welcome in our communities and keeping ourselves safe, especially with Prop 47 and all the different things that are going on. They're being pushed more and more. As far as using our youth, I think there are ways we can use them in our community and really change the system so that we're educating and respecting those and figuring out how we can make our lives better. So there's lots of opportunities in our organizations and so forth that we can do that.
Thank you. Carla, same question to you. Are there any ideas for using the juvenile detention center that could generate revenue? And speak to us about your positions on public safety.
Well, I'd like to start off that I'm endorsed by very reputable associations, including the Ventura County Deputy Sheriff's Association and the Ventura County Peace Officers Association, and have had numerous conversations to hear about the different statewide and impacts that are happening locally with realignment and other propositions that are currently being implemented. With regard to the juvenile facility, I think it's critical to work with our Community Corrections Partnership and access grants in order to look at restorative justice options for our youth. Incarcerating young people is tremendously and exponentially way more expensive than it is to educate our young people and provide them with job skills. And so I think it's critical that as a juvenile detention facility that we're looking into ways of accessing grants that in fact can support continuing education, receiving a GED, getting a high school diploma, and also earning the job skills necessary to re-enter society and the workforce with a good set of skills.
Thank you. Next question to you, Carla, talks about land use. Do you support the guidelines for orderly development, that urban development basically should be within the cities and not in the unincorporated area? And also, what are your views on SOAR and Sustain VC?
Certainly. I support SOAR, and the reason why I support SOAR is because it adds a critical component of voter participation to land use decision-making process. In Ventura County, we have an incredibly beautiful Mediterranean climate, some of the best topsoil on the planet. We're one of the few places that can grow crops year-round, and the reason why our agricultural industry is so successful is because we have those natural resources here. Land use is really difficult. Elected officials face a lot of pressure from developers and also our population growth as we continue to move forward. And so having a voter participation aspect to land use decision-making policies really makes it a more holistic and transparent way to approach this decision-making process. So that's why I support SOAR. In terms of
The guidelines for orderly development, which means that development happens within the cities and not in the unincorporated area.
No, I think there's room for both, but transparency is paramount to those decision-making
Thank you.
processes.
Okay, Kelly, same question to you. Do you support the guidelines for orderly development, and what are your views on SOAR and Sustain VC?
Okay, I do support the Sustain VC. I think our Ventura County is beautiful, and we do need to save our agricultural resources. And the way we can do that is by supporting our farmers. In the last 10 years, we've not been able to answer their needs for water. They've been looking for farmhousing locally, and they've also been looking for adding some food processing. The Sustain VC will provide that. If you look at a cell phone, right? Cell phone, how has things changed in 10 years, right? Well, if we don't look at things in a 10-year span, well, how are we going to help our economy? And the Sustain VC has that within. So they're actually looking at their economy in a 10-year span versus going for 35 years and really hand-tying our children's children. And personally, I would prefer to review things and make sure we're helping our farmers and supporting their businesses. They can't just change to different crops like nothing. We need to support them. We need to support our economy. Now, part of the boundary lines, I do support that we build within our boundary lines. I think it's important that we're supporting our density, looking at what's for each community, what their needs are, and then making those decisions based on that.
Thank you. And Kelly, we'll start with you on this next one. I've been given a clarification because I did a poor job apparently on the cannabis question.
No, you're doing great. Thank you.
Excellent. So the medical cannabis, to clarify, has been legal since Proposition 215. This is the medical marijuana.
Yes.
However, the county and cities have not developed regulations to allow the legal dispensing to patients. Obviously, you can't control the cities, but as the county, what's your position about developing regulations to allow the legal dispensing of medical marijuana?
Right, that is true. The county has stated not, you have to drive farther to get the medicine. I do believe, well, not medicine, but the marijuana, excuse me. But it is a type of treatment. It helps patients with PTSD, tongue-tied here, and so forth, for patients with MS, so forth. So it's a question that each community, I think, needs to look at, in each county, as to how we want to handle it. I think we're going to be pushed even harder if once this proposition gets pushed through, that the dispensaries will probably come through. But it's a fine line. We need to work with our law enforcement and make sure we have the rules and regulations put in place first before we're able to even look at that.
Thank you. Carla, same question to you. If elected, what will be your view about developing regulations to allow the legal dispensing of medical marijuana?
I think it's important to have regulations and a county ordinance that supports the safe and sound use, not only for the protection of the patients who use medical marijuana, but also for the individuals who dispense the medical marijuana. And so oftentimes when we're waiting for legislation or new rules to come down from the state and federal level, we're left with a lot of gray areas which can cause issues, safety issues predominantly. And so we want to make sure that not only our patients, but our producers and the community as a whole are protected. So I think it's important to, one, understand what the needs of the dispensing of medical marijuana in the county is, and utilize that to inform what our local regulations would look like.
Thank you, Carla. We're going to do one more question before we do the closing statements. Carla, we're going to start with you on this one. The question about, is there a downside to a large increase in the minimum wage? And I think sometimes we forget the county is probably the second or third largest employer in the area. So as an elected supervisor, what's your position about the minimum wage and the increase that was passed recently?
Sure, well, it's state law now, so as a county supervisor, we need to abide by the law of the land, and that's important to do. There will be an adjustment period, I'm sure. In some cases, wages were stagnant for over 6 to 8 years, and so this will be a jump, but it's something that's said by the studies that will help stimulate our economy by supporting working class families, working class men and women. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity to work at the county level to see this through in a judicious and responsible way.
Thank you. And Kelly, same question to you about the minimum wage.
Oh, this is an interesting one. The state has approved it, and if you look at the studies, I love studies. If you look at the studies, say for example in Seattle or Marina Del Rey or Washington D.C., where they've now upped the minimum wage. Minimum wage used to be where we started, right? We're at a pizza place, we have different jobs, but we were starting out there. That was just the beginning step, and then we kept working. Nowadays, some of us live on that minimum wage. And what I'm worried about right now is the fact that we are going to be putting this in place. And I want to make sure that our companies are not laying people off, but how do we work smart to keep these people employed, to make sure our neighbors, I want to make sure our neighbors are still employed. I want to make sure that we're working with our companies to see how we can help them so that they do reduce costs. At the end of the day, they have to do a product. But how we can support our businesses to make sure our communities are still employed, and that's really what I'm worried about. I'm worried about our stores and so forth going more automation and less personal customer service. I want our employees to have jobs, so I'm looking at that very closely to see how we can improve it.
I never thought about it, but I wonder if a robot will replace me someday. All right, we've completed our questions, and we're now going to take the closing statements. We're going to do the reverse of the order. Kelly Long will go first. Kelly, you have 2 minutes. So timers, if you'll give her a warning when we reach the 1.5 minute mark. Kelly Long.
Thank you. As stated in my opening remarks, I am a problem solver. As your supervisor, I will be fiscally prudent with our county budget so that we are ready for worst case scenarios, meanwhile protecting our basic services, county staff, and pensions. As a successful business owner, I will offer a business-like approach in addressing the needs of our county operations. During my campaign, I've received the support and endorsement of local Chamber of Commerce, and I will continue the relationships working closely with the Chamber's industrial leaders and community groups to help improve our local economy. I will work effectively with the state and federal levels to ensure we are assessing services, resources, and funding that we need. I support sharing of resources to ensure that the fire department and law enforcement can be there for our cities, our county incorporated areas, our federal areas of responsibility, and other neighborhood communities. I've heard that if you want to know what a candidate is really like, or whether or not they're up to the task, you just take a look at how we're managing our campaign. I've been fiscally prudent with my campaign funds and have been out in our communities every day, meeting and conversing with a wide range of voters of all political variety and viewpoints. Serving as your county supervisor means that people have entrusted me with a great responsibility. This is neither something I take lightly, nor will I back down when serving your interests. Our county doesn't need another politician. It needs a problem solver with real work experience. That is who I am, and that's why I'm asking for your vote. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you. And our next candidate, Carla Castilla.
Thank you. After 20 years of representing families of the 3rd District, Supervisor Kathy Long's retirement leaves a leadership void that will be tough to fill. I'm honored to be endorsed by Supervisor Kathy Long and proud that she has the confidence in me to do the job effectively. I'm also honored to have earned the endorsement from teachers and education leaders, law enforcement leaders, including the Ventura County Deputy Sheriff's Association and the Ventura County Peace Officers Association, the professional firefighters of the county, California Nurses Association, the Sierra Club, and importantly, the Ventura County Star. This diverse coalition of support speaks to my ability to work with all facets of county government, and ultimately, we share a common vision of the future. My vision for the future of Ventura County includes a balanced, healthy economy with strong small businesses at the core, allowing our small towns to thrive. A future that continues to grow and strengthen a well-trained workforce. A future sustainable environment that is protected from reckless development and pollution. A future that addresses policies and invested services for our veterans, including access to quality jobs, affordable housing, access to healthcare, behavioral health services, continuing education, and access to job training. That also includes a future that addresses issues for our seniors, such as housing needs, access to quality healthcare, access to transportation, and policies that protect our seniors. A future where community and law enforcement works together to ensure we have healthy, safe neighborhoods to raise our children and families. Finally, I want you to know that I have a passion for service, a strong commitment to transparent civic duty, and I will continue to work to protect the high quality of life that all Ventura County families have the right to enjoy. I ask for your support on November 8th. We can and we will promote good paying jobs, maintain our community's safe neighborhoods, and protect what's special about Ventura County. Thank you all.
Thank you. And how about a round of applause? So we're going to take about a 10-minute